I'm Michael Hunsucker with Heartland Bowhunter, and I've been fortunate enough to be a part of the Bass Pro hunting team for as long as I can remember. Throughout those years, we've had some incredible hunts, and I'd love to show you guys around and relive some of those memories. This is how you know you have an awesome wife, because this is the first thing that you see when you walk in my house. This is kind of the biggest collection of all the mounts, and there's so many different memories from so many different states. What's really cool about some of these is these are deer that came off of this property that I was hunting when I was literally just getting started when I was 13, 14, 15 years old. So don't film this dog. I don't have little foofy dogs, I only have manly dogs. He's scared of the camera. He's actually a pretty cool dog. You know, I'm not a big fan of little dogs, but he's got a good demeanor. One of my most intense hunts, I was able to go and do a brown bear hunt on Kodiak Island, the biggest bears in the world, and it was the most intense hunt of my life, and it was the most boring hunt of my life. We hunted for 12 days in the spring when days are 17, 18 hours long. Glassing, sitting there and glassing, taking a nap, glassing, taking a nap, glassing. You don't want to hike around. You don't want to spread scent everywhere. Their sense of smell is incredible, so you just don't want to mess that up. And so we waited for the bear to come to us and saw this bear, made a move on him. He was going away from us, so we snuck up to him, actually called him in with a fawn and distress call. And so these bears had come out of hibernation in the winter, just been ravaging through the bottoms looking for deer. And here we are with the bow and arrow and screaming on a deer call, saying, "Come eat me." He heard us and came on a string to us. He kind of knew something was going on in the bushes. Instead of walking by on the path that we hoped he was going to walk by on, he came directly to us and stood up on his front paws, just kind of pushed his chest up at about 12 yards. I don't get super nervous, but I'll never forget that moment. It was like time kind of stood still and don't screw this up. This is an opportunity you've been waiting, all your life for, really. And so as I came to full draw, I was just extremely hyper-focused on making the perfect shot. As he stood up and revealed his vitals to where I could get the shot, I just picked a spot, and I'd never forget looking through my peep sight, and he was so close, it was just brown fur everywhere. I had to look up from my bow to make sure I was pointing in the general vicinity of the right direction. As I released the arrow, I watched it just travel perfect, and the bear turned, ran down the mountain, and crashed and was dead within seconds. Huge sigh of relief to make a good shot in those situations, obviously under pressure. All of the feelings kind of culminating over 12 days of sleeping in a tent and just being mentally exhausted, being able to execute in that situation, and definitely one of the most intense hunts of my life. Yeah, so this is kind of my shop / weight room, and so spent a lot of time in here setting up bows and moved the brown bear in here, at least for now. Really cool to kind of relive that hunt as you're in here. It's actually good motivation for when you're hitting the weights, working out and making sure you're not the slowest guy on the hunt. Because if you are, that's who's getting eaten. The shop over here is where I do a lot of the bow setup stuff and all the tools and stuff that you kind of need to tinker, and then obviously supplies, broadheads, all that kind of stuff. I do all of our guys' bows. I end up setting up quite a few throughout the year. When it comes to archery, I'm super nitpicky perfectionist, and this is case in point that I do a lot of tuning and shooting bows, if you guys want to see this. But you can see how many shots it takes sometimes to get a bow perfected. It's unique to see, all the evolution of hunting as technology's changed and stuff. We've kind of evolved with it, and this bow is far more advanced than the bow I shot my first deer with, that's for sure. People always wonder, how do you keep track of bucks and follow them through the years? And they all have unique characteristics in their antlers and even their bodies. And we get so many trail cam photos that we're able to, really tell a lot about each deer. But Floppy is a buck that he's unique because he had damage to the cartilage in his ears or had some sort of deformity to where his ears, they would just fall to the side. And so Floppy was how he got his nickname. And he was a deer that obviously so super distinct and we were able to keep track of him. But even more unique than his physical looks were his keen ability to survive and just somehow just always beat us. And he was one of those deer where I never had a buck, I don't think, be so regular on trail camera in daylight when we're not hunting him, but when we're hunting him, never show up. We had a couple encounters with him over the years. When you get this type of behavior out of a deer, seeing him on trail camera, when I make the right move, it's game over. But it wasn't with Floppy. He was never game over with Floppy. Fortunately enough, finally did catch up with him. We were able to pull it all together. It was a November hunt during the rut, and we just happened to have the perfect conditions to hunt the spot where he was living. And it was almost to a point to where I felt like he was watching us from where he was bedding come in and like knew when we were there. But I think more than anything, his hearing was obviously affected by his ears, and it was almost like he had to rely more on his other senses. And so I think more or less it was just him always utilizing the wind to his advantage. No matter how he moved, he always was moving into the wind and made it difficult for us to pull off. But on this one November evening, everything just kind of came together perfectly. He was following, coming down the ridge to us. We had some does right in front of us. One of those situations where I was like, all right, I wonder what's gonna go wrong this time. Like, what's gonna happen? I'm not gonna believe this till it does happen. And he comes out and he sees those does from the timber, and he comes cruising right into this food plot right in front of us, and I'm like, oh, perfect, it's gonna be game over right there, 30 yards. And I grab my bow, draw back, I come to full draw. A little buck from our right comes in and bumps those does, and the does spook. They just ran away from him, and Floppy like looks at them because they're running, and he's like, what's going on here? And so he turns and walks straight away from us, right when he's about to walk out into our lane. And as he does, he like catches our wind or catches a little bit of something. He's uneasy, he doesn't know what's going on, just what those big mature wide bucks do. And he finally turns, comes in, and gives me a shot at like 65, dropped him right in his tracks right there, and it was over in a matter of seconds. It was one of those situations where he almost slipped out and got away once again. That's what keeps bow hunting so exciting, is that it's always changing, and you always have to be, you know, on the top of your game, and you have to be making these certain moves at the right time. So it definitely is a challenge that keeps on challenging.